Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Homeschool Live. My name is Christine, and joining me today, I have Ginger Wayde from CHAP. Thanks for joining us today, Ginger. And,
Sure thing.
I would just want us to learn a little bit more about you. Why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, so I am in Pennsylvania. So CHAP is the Christian Homeschool Association of Pennsylvania, and my husband and I have been volunteering with them for many, many years, been on the board for 10. And we've been homeschoolers from the very beginning. Our oldest is 21. So he and I, Steve and I don't know, we discovered homeschooling really early on and thought this is the thing we want to do. And it's just totally become our passion. We love having our kids home and having the opportunity to raise them up to follow Christ in all of life. And we just couldn't imagine our life any other way. People early on always ask, are you just going to do it through middle school? And we're like, no, we're like doing the thing. God hasn't called us away. So I have 6 kids ranging from 21 to 8, almost
Wow.
9. And so, yeah, 2 graduated and 4 still in school. So we're still doing the thing. And I do host a weekly podcast called Chattin with CHAP.
Very
So, yeah, so you may recognize me if you are familiar with CHAP and have seen our things before. But yeah, so my husband is the chair of the board with CHAP. So he and I are in it, both feet running on the ground.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure
And
thing.
so now you're in the homeschooling game, as you said. And so describe what you see as one of the biggest challenges in homeschooling that families face today.
Sure, sure. So in Pennsylvania, I mean, I don't know how many of you out there know this, but Pennsylvania has one of the more strict homeschool laws in the nation, right? So when you look at Pennsylvania and getting started homeschooling in Pennsylvania, many people will think, oh my goodness, that's the biggest challenge. It's so hard. When in reality, working with the law, complying to the law really isn't as challenging once you get your feet wet in the state of Pennsylvania. So that's really not the most challenging part of homeschooling in our state, or just homeschooling in general. It is more of a general homeschooling thing, not a Pennsylvania related thing. That I find most challenging is for parents to stay the course. You kind of have to, if you don't have that foundation and that goal set for why on earth you're doing what it is that you're doing and where you're trying to propel your children, it's going to be really hard to continue that when life hits you. Things happen, health happens, it's not going the way you want, your kids aren't cooperating, all these things. So, that's when we get questions and stuff, that's what I am finding. It's hardest for people to stick to their why if they don't have that
Mm,
really good foundation laid out for what they're doing. So really, I mean, finding curriculum, people get concerned about those things, people get concerned about the academics, but really the challenging thing is staying the course. So the important part with that is people call it finding your tribe, finding a group, finding a co-op, whatever it is that's going to come around you and support you in staying the course. The people that are like-minded, that are focused like where you're focused, or have just willing to listen when you're really struggling. And so finding that support,
yeah.
I think it could be a challenge for you to find them.
Mhm.
But it's definitely something that you need in order to help you through this journey, because the homeschooling journey is not for the weak of heart.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you gave quite a bit of really good points there. What would you say the most important um, or what's the most important advice that you would give parents who are on this journey?
Yeah. So honestly, I talk to so many people. I help a lot of people, and again, in Pennsylvania, there's so much paperwork. But really the deep down advice that I give everybody is just pray. And it might
Mm,
sound cliche or repetitive or whatever, but honestly, prayer is just the thing. I mean, you go in there and you quiet yourself before the Lord and you say, okay, you've called me to this thing. Now what? What do I do? How do I find the thing that I'm supposed to do with the kids? How do I educate them? What's their bent? Like with me, when I'm trying to figure out my children and how they learn, I talk to Jesus about it, because sometimes I'm not very bright with that, or I'm not patient enough to figure it out, right? So, show me, what is it that my children need to be the person that you've called them to be.
Mm,
What type of learner are they, or what type of things should they be studying? And honestly, it is different for each kid. So there's balance in your sanity and
yeah.
providing them what they need to be the person that God has designed them to be. So prayer over the whole thing is really important, but also just being willing to let it be about character building and training them to follow Jesus. We get so wrapped up in the academics and the fear of them being left behind. I have things about the term left behind, but yeah. So it's not so much about the academics, but it is, who has God created this child to be? And do they know Jesus? Are they following Jesus? Are you building their character? Are you taking time out of the day to prepare them to be functional adults? I've said that a lot too. So the biggest advice there is, again, prayer, thinking out of the box, just letting God totally change your thoughts about education and the training of your children and what it should look like. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really great advice. And I'm a homeschooling mom of two boys, and that is
Mhm.
exactly what keeps me focused and what keeps me centered. Because yeah, you can totally get overwhelmed very quickly
Yeah.
with the whole homeschooling journey. But if you stay grounded in knowing that, yeah, I want my kids to be well-rounded adults when they grow up, not just
Mhm.
smart. Yes, I pray every day that they're smart
Yeah.
and they learn all that they
Yeah.
can. But I want them to also be smart about, their faith and
Mhm.
their relationship with
Mhm.
God too. So I want that whole balance. And so
Mhm.
yes, praying to find that balance, praying
Mhm.
for the wisdom to
Mhm.
teach them about having that balance in their own
Mhm.
lives. Um, yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah,
Totally
and all
agree.
the life skills. I mean, there's so many people that don't know how to
Yes,
do basic life things anymore. I've heard so many
yes.
stories about people go to college and they do other people's laundry and charge them like exorbitant amounts because they know how to do laundry
Oh my
and other
goodness.
people do not, so you get this little side hustle of doing people's laundry. But anyway, it's just, I don't know. I think we've been so trained or, whatever it is with the public school system to think this is what education looks like. And it really just doesn't. We just need to let those things go and let God direct us in what it is, that our children need, because it's going to be different. He's got a different plan for every single one of them. So yeah. In a large
Mm.
family, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of time. Yeah.
I only
Doing
have two, so I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Don't know
Well,
how
it takes
you.
a lot of time being and not doing, being before the Lord,
Mm,
being with your children and getting to know them and what makes
mhm.
them tick, and then just, as you learn to get to know them, which is, I mean, that's what God's all about. He's about relationship, right? He's designed us to be in relationship. He likes to be in relationship. He wants us to be with him and before him and just spend time with him. I think about Mary, she spent time at his feet and
Yeah,
Martha's like, and we're all Martha's, right? Come on,
we
there's dinner
are.
to cook and the bathroom to clean and what full laundry to fold and all that. When being with Jesus is like, oh, that's where he wants us to be. And I'm guilty with, I'm right up there with the task oriented, check it off the list kind of a
Yes.
person. So I need to talk to myself and be like, okay, rest is important. Being with the kids is important. Listening to them when they're reading their little play that they wrote that they're very proud of is really important to do. So yeah, just letting God change my mind about what's important and reorder my day according to what he says is important. It's important to be flexible that way. That's a lot of advice. I think I kind of wandered around there, but
No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful because we all need to eat, no matter what stage we're at. We always need that reminder. All of what you said was just right on. That we all need to be reminded of, and to just stay focused on those important points. So
Mhm.
thank you for
Sure
rambling
thing.
on.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. So now you said, you and your husband are both heavily involved in CHAP. Why don't you
Mhm.
go ahead and describe what CHAP is for those of us who have no clue?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said earlier, if you didn't hear, it's the Christian Homeschool Association of Pennsylvania, which every single word in that, except for, well, every single word is huge except of. That's why we say CHAP, because those words are all gigantic. It's not like, Maine. Maine is really tiny.
Yeah.
So, living in, and I live in Elizabethtown, which is another, everything I have about what I do is really long. But anyway, so CHAP is a support organization. So there's many people who write in to us on Facebook and think we're a school, an online
Mm,
school, or some kind of a co-op or something. And we're actually not. We are a support organization for homeschooling families. So what we do is provide year-round resources and people to talk to if you're interested in getting information about homeschooling in Pennsylvania or just homeschooling in general. I mean, I know people watch, I have a podcast, a weekly podcast called Chat with Chap, and people watch that from all over. I had someone write into me from Mississippi with a question about it. So we're supporting, people all over with just general basic biblical homeschooling information. So it's definitely a biblical worldview focus. Our purpose is to raise up the next generations to follow Christ in all of life, encouraging families, grandparents, parents, children to all be learning together. So we have an organization, want to encourage, we want to equip, we want to connect. We are definitely protecting our right and freedom to homeschool in Pennsylvania. So we do keep an eye on what's going on in Harrisburg, our capital city, and what bills are coming out, so that if something comes out that is questionable or might be detrimental to the freedom of homeschooling in Pennsylvania, we make sure our homeschool families know that, so that they
great.
can reach out to their representatives and say, hey, now, we don't want that. That's not what we want. Or introducing new bills, or we have made the homeschool law a little easier in the past. So joining with other organizations throughout the state to be in Harrisburg and lobby for that type of thing. So we are there. We listen. If you come in, you have problems, you send us messages, curriculum suggestions. I mean, any of those questions that you have. We do provide a yearly convention that this year will be in June. And yeah, financial assistance for folks who are really struggling. If you have I don't know, a life circumstance that is keeping you from being able to homeschool. We have the CHAP Foundation that supports people in that. We give out scholarships and at the convention in the spring for graduating seniors. And yeah, we're just here to support. We have resources at chaponline.com that you will see there on the screen. And if you go to the resource tab, tons of stuff there. You can connect to my show on all the platforms, and support group listings there, so you can find your people, find your tribe in your area. We have evaluators in our state, so all
Wow.
those types of resources. Yeah, so you can find things there. And then we have a special law page called homeschool pennsylvania.org, which is just about the law. So since we do have lots of hoops to jump through, they're not hard
Mm,
hoops, but there's lots of hoops to jump through, and you have to have your ducks in a row. We have a whole website dedicated to that. So it's clearly explained, lots of explainer videos, lots of the forms are there, sample forms and everything. So we have all these tools and resources out there for our homeschoolers to just grab a hold of and run with. Yeah, and like I said, we are definitely here to support people with questions. I do once a month on my show, I do question and answer day. So anyone who has written in over the past
good.
month, I do answer their questions on air, because guaranteed they're not the only person with that question. We do get repeat questions. So it's always good to share answers out there so that other parents know that, oh, I'm not the only one with that question that I might have been embarrassed to ask. No, there's other people for sure. So ask away. We're here to help and support. Because our heart is that parents would just take a hold of that mandate to train their children up in the way they
Mm,
should go, and to support them in doing that. And I haven't seen any better way than homeschooling to do that. I mean, you're with your kids all the time. You can work through character issues in your children and in yourself
yes.
and grow together. And I just don't see, there are other families that do really well. And they work really hard in other situations, but I just don't think the growth happens like it does in the homeschooling lifestyle. So our heart and our passion is just to help as many families as possible, stick with that call to have their children with them and to train them up in the way they should go.
That's
So,
amazing. Yeah, you just described a whole lot of ways that homeschooling families, I mean, you really don't have an excuse um, when you've got an organization like CHAP available to you. If you are in this area, definitely check out the website. I was just browsing through while you were talking,
mhm.
and yeah, it is on the screen, and we have put it in the comments, so you can go ahead and just click if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay. Um, it's jam packed with so much information. So if you're getting started with this homeschooling journey, you're considering it, check out those links, get all the answers. And I'm one of those people that like to troll comments, because I know someone's asked the questions that I've asked, so I'm looking and I'm
Mhm.
searching, and so
Mhm.
guaranteed someone has already asked that question that you're
Yes.
asking,
Yes.
and so find the answers. The answers are out there for you. There is a community out there for you. There is support out there
Mhm.
for you. So definitely check it out. Um, Thank you, Ginger. I This was so informative about CHAP. Is there anything else that you had on your heart or in your brain that you wanted to share with our viewers today?
Well, I do want to say, you know what, if you're in Pennsylvania and the paperwork and that type of stuff is what's scaring you, don't let that scare you.
Mhm.
We have resources. Reach out. I'll step you through it. I've talked on the phone with people so many times, just stepping them through all that type of stuff. But don't let that keep you from starting this journey, joining this journey. And there are people out there who can walk with you. And it doesn't look like public school. It just doesn't. It's totally different. So I don't know. I just encourage people to just give it a shot and let it be different and change. And there was a mom I was counseling, not counseling, I don't like that word. I like mentoring because I'm not a counselor.
That's a good word. Yeah.
So, but just saying she was concerned because they had life circumstances and they couldn't get
Mm,
the academics like she wanted to. And I'm like, you know what? You're teaching your child how to deal with what you're going through. You're teaching
yeah.
them emotional stability, how to walk through something that's devastating, how to take the time to heal from that. And that's important. So many of us just plow through life and we don't process all the things that we encounter, all the disappointments and stuff, and it heaps up, in the back, and then at some point it volcanoes out, right? So just taking that time to process all these things, that's home education. It's life, and it's a really solid adult you're building, giving them those opportunities. So I encourage you, don't be afraid. God will lead you through it, and it does look totally different than what we've been trained to
Yes.
think what education is. And just, you can chat with chat previous episodes. I talk about I talk about grades, I talk about, all the things that we've been trained to think
Yeah.
in our public school system that are just not true education. It's not true learning.
And even if
So,
were watching some other homeschooling families and seeing the way that they did it, don't try to mimic them either,
yes,
because
yes.
your family, the way you function as a
Hmm.
homeschooling unit, is going to look different from family to family.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you have to find your groove, you have to find what works for your
Hmm.
family. And yeah, life is going to happen, but it's
Hmm.
you as a family going through that. And the beautiful thing is, I've shared this everywhere in articles and interviews and everything. Homeschooling is all about the flexibility. And
Yes.
so if you can be flexible, you can do this. And your children need to see this too. Like, life is
Hmm.
not
Oh
in
yeah.
a box and
Yeah.
it's going to be
Yeah.
this way all the time. I
Hmm.
mean, if you're a
Hmm.
child of God, curveballs come
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
right and at any moment,
Mhm.
and you need to be okay. You need to trust in God every step of the way, and
Yes.
that's how this works. That's how it works.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
we do have the paperwork. We do have, the I don't know, the schedules, the certain routines, the curriculum
Mhm.
and stuff that we
Mhm.
follow, but we're not bound by those things.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, I
And confession, I mean, I'm 17 years in, and I'm just unwinding some of that stuff,
yeah,
so I've been doing it for a long time, and sometimes it's so ingrained, it takes a
yeah,
long time to unwind and loosen up
it's true.
and just let God take the reins and all that stuff. So just don't expect yourself to have it figured out in 2 weeks or even 2
Exactly.
years.
It's almost this thing that just morphs and it
Yes.
grows into
Yes.
what it should become as
Mhm.
long as you're willing to let it
Mhm.
change the way that it
Mhm.
needs to change. And
Mhm.
so don't be hard on yourself as
Yes.
homeschooling mom or dad. Um, you just take it one day at a time. That's my
Mhm.
motto. One
Mhm.
day at a
Mhm.
time.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, that flexibility that's a life skill. It's a
It
life
is.
skill because that is
Yeah.
literally life,
Yeah.
learning to be flexible. So, yeah,
It is. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ginger, for joining us today.
sure thing.
If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to hop in the chat. And even if you're watching the replay, if you have specific questions for Ginger, for sure reach out on through her website, thechaponline.com, or leave the questions and we'll get it over to Ginger as well. We're happy to do that. And hey, if you have any other homeschooling questions, let us know, and we're glad to help you on your homeschooling journey. And we'll be signing off for now. But thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.